Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the second day of the forum. The first panel discussion today is titled Global IT Trends 2025, Navigating the AI Economy. And I invite to the stage the speakers. Marina Zhunich, she is joining online. She is Head of Government Affairs and Public Policy at Google Cloud in Caucasus, Central Asia, South Africa, and Israel. Kirill Sorokin, Consulting Partner, EY Azerbaijan. Peck, Founder and CEO, EndeavorXR. I'll ask all the speakers to come from my left. Sabir Mardanov, Head of Data and AI from Azercell Telecom. And Wang, Co-founder and General Partner of Outpost Capital, Managing Partner at Solaris Venture Partners. And to moderate this panel, I invite Tughra Musayeva, Head of Innovations, PASHA Holding.
Good morning to everyone, dear panel members. Thank you very much for joining us today. And our focus of discussion probably will be not what AI can do, but rather how we can integrate it in an inclusive and responsible way. And I'm very much excited to hear your ideas. And I would like to start with Amy, since you are in your scope involved into the frontier technology. If you would define the top trends that are gonna influence the way our economy is gonna shape in the upcoming year, at least, what that would be, in your opinion, where we are all going?
Okay, just the on button is always helpful. Well, I think in your opening, you touched on, responsible AI. I think that is first and foremost on our minds is how are we deploying this technology responsibly? And then we have, all the buzzwords, right? Agentic AI, AI at the edge. But the most meaningful uses within this AI landscape are going to differ from company to company. And the important thing is to, first of all, build the governance structures within your company. Then the data. Companies have vast archives of data, and then they have the dynamic data now, and they need to make sure that those structures are able to be ingested and are cleaned and are useful within the context of their future business. And then when I talk about future business, it's not just about implementing AI immediately and using it for productivity. We know that we can immediately implement certain levels of AI, especially LLMs, for productivity. But really, what is the North Star? So when I work with clients, we talk about parallel paths to innovation. One is using this technology to optimize where we are today. So it's incremental improvement, but it's, around automation and agents. It's about optimizing our processes and even within our buildings, monitoring real-time data to optimize even how we move through space in our building management systems. If you're in manufacturing, accelerating closed-loop optimization and automation in those fields. And, but again, without a North Star, so that's our we know that technology can solve. So what business problems do you have, and how do we use technology to optimize? The other and harder path is this parallel path to truly a future of what are the products and services of the future, how do we live in the future, and really building a North Star, and I even go beyond a North Star to what our supernova is. Because we have a number of challenges that companies have to take into consideration, which is not just about the economics of their business. It's about addressing ESG and SDGs and where we are going with the planet, and again, responsible products and services. And so with that parallel path, you have to stop and do the exercise of this future vision of where your company is going to be in not 3, 5, 10 years, but in 20, 50, 100 years. And if you're doing that in parallel, AI is going to be a huge component of that, but it's really blending, this convergence of all of the technologies that are going to be part of your solution moving forward.
That's very interesting, actually. What we have been discussing yesterday, that the assumption was that AI would bring more equality, but actually it's somehow also disrupting in a way that the companies and countries which are adopting it earlier are getting the edge, and those which are coming, taking a lag, they're losing the momentum. And from that perspective, what you're saying makes so much sense, having that vision where to go. And when it comes to vision, everyone is looking up to the Silicon Valley as a major source where it all started. And from that perspective, Ryan, my question to you would be that how the investment capital is reacting to this, AI evolution, which is happening right now. Is it still in a chaotic investment stage, or we are entering into a more disciplined, rationalized investment? So what is happening there, where the investment money is moving?
Yeah, Tughra, thank you for this question. I think this is actually a very thoughtful question, right? And also, the other way to interpret this particular question is really, are we in an AI bubble or not, right? We all seen from the news that the world, different nations has been spending multi-hundreds of billions, even trillions in artificial intelligence, right? No matter building out the data centers, digital infrastructure side, or just working invest in the startup founder on the AI and innovation side, right? So I think to answer your question, we need to think about things whether in short term or in long term, right? In the short term, what we are seeing is that from the venture capital perspective, billions of dollars are invested. And at the same time, from the infrastructure perspective, right, hundreds of billions of dollars are invested. Now, can these numbers be justified at the end of the day, right? If we look into the numbers, I do think, AI is the hottest investment sector. I do think, most there are too much money chasing too few high quality companies, right? So from a valuation perspective, you might be able to notice that, a lot of companies, for example, Figure AI, right? They are pre-product, they are pre-revenue, developing a humanoid robotics, right? The company is already valued at $40 billion, right? And also the other trend is that nowadays we see more and more what I call as day one unicorn companies. So it's basically a few high-profile founders with a team, with an idea, right? They are able to go out there and raise hundreds of millions of dollars with team, with idea, with no product, with no product market fit as well, right? So I think from all these kind of activities, these are unprecedented phenomena in the venture world. We never had any day one unicorns like 5 years ago, right? It's all new and it's so much accelerated by the developing AI. And I think from this kind of perspective, we feel like, it does feel there's bubble happening, right? But then if we take the timeline a little bit longer, right, to like a 2-3 years horizon, we see how the success of ChatGPT are able to accumulate 100 million daily average users within the first 6 months, right? So the growth of AI startups is beyond imagination as well. So AI also has accelerated the pace of development from the startup perspective as well. So can this investment at the end of the day get justified by the hyper growth of these AI startups? I think, currently from the momentum, I would say it's a yes, right? So if we expand the time horizon a little bit and be a little bit more patient with these startups, a lot of things can be justified, right? And also, I also mentioned briefly that hundreds of billions of dollars, even in trillions, are invested in digital infrastructure, data center, right? Investing in computation. So in the short term, it's a very high demanding market. It's still a very seller's market, right? So, as soon as new data center is pop up running, we see they have no problem getting all the clients and getting all the revenues inside these projects. Will we heading to an age where too many data centers are built out, and there are so much abundant computation that we may, as a human civilization, is like we may never be able to consume so much computation. That could potentially be a possibility in the future, but I don't think the possibility is very high, because with more efficient computation, we will see a huge amount of demand on the AI side as well, right? On the demand side. So I think eventually, I would bet my money on, I would bet, we are not in a bubble at the moment, especially from a long-term horizon.
There is a feeling that at the start, when we were investing in startups, specifically early stage, there's always the element of luck, because the idea may be there, the team may be there, but still things may or may not happen. But with AI, it's sort of the uncertainty increased even more. So no one knows, which of these companies are going to make or not going to make, and significantly investing into every single opportunity, not to miss any chance. And although they are starting in sort of a gray zone, as you're mentioning, infrastructure is still yet to be built to catch up with that scale. And the policy also, because it's still the regulations and how we are going to be regulating it, it's also at the early stage. And with that, I would like, Marina, I don't know if you can hear us, if you are with us. Hello. Hope that
I'm following the discussion avidly.
Yeah. And what we started discussion with Ryan is that it's not only ideas, but it's also the infrastructure and the regulation which should go and develop hand in hand. And from that perspective, I would like to hear your opinion about how the governments are reacting, and what is the major challenges in terms of developing policies to regulate how AI is being adopted, and because it turned into the nervous system of the economies. It's no more a tech, idea. It's no more something which is high-tech solution. So what do you observe there? What are your observations?
Good morning, everyone. I'm so sorry not to be able to join you offline. I rarely miss opportunity to come to Baku. But this time I have to be several thousand miles away. I actually would like to argue that we are seeing, effects of AI on the governance, on the public sector. And as a citizen, first of all, I think I'm appreciating the promise and some already existing successful cases of AI, which are increasing security, in citizen interactions, cutting down on excessive paperwork or excessive communication with the frontline workers and municipalities, etc. The regulation is paramount, and the fixing regulation in order to accelerate AI for digital transformation across the governments is a paramount task. And at Google, we are approaching it holistically. We are working with a lot of governments across the world. And I think we're approaching this from the standpoint of several pillars that are necessary, that we think necessary to enable digital transformation in the governance. Of course, it's physical capital. You need to have infrastructure. You need to have secure infrastructure in order to be able to benefit from the AI promise. You need to have human capital. And this is where all the efforts are still not enough. Upskilling, the skills deficit that I think we're seeing across the globe is still very obvious in terms of necessary skills to design and deploy and sustain AI responsibly. Policy mismatch, the necessary regulations. Cloud-first policy is a tip of the iceberg. We keep promoting it. We keep promoting the approach according to which the governments need to first think of cloud infrastructure before they would be thinking of, on-premise infrastructure. But it's not enough. There are many policies that need to be shaped, that need to be changed in order to unlock this opportunity. And basically, supportive, non-contradictory regulatory environment is still desired and is still not an overwhelming reality, I think, across the globe. And the first good thing that the governments can do is a comprehensive review of existing laws, not only specifically digital laws like employment or consumer protection, not speaking obviously of data protection and sovereignty requirements. And this is what some governments are already doing, and Google is participating in helping this. But basically, a national comprehensive skilling plan is some immediate task that I can see many governments in my remit undertaken. And this is something that is badly needed. And this is something that can move us forward.
Thank you so much. And you have touched a very important point, saying that it will depend on how fast we will be able to adopt the technology, cloud technologies, but on the other hand, the human factor, because at the end of the day, it will be the adoption on the human side, on the human behavior. And from that, developing that a bit further, I would like to address the question to Sabir, who has been leading AI and digital transformation in many different geographies, is that when it comes to corporates, what are the challenges in terms of AI adaptation there? Is it human factor? Is it technology? Where do you see, what is it that will help the companies to move from experimenting with AI to delivering actual business impacts?
Thank you, Tughra. That's a great question. And looking from the perspective of a practitioner who's been implementing AI for the last several years, long before it was a Gen AI, right? And before deep learning, starting with machine learning, I found throughout the years that the universal recipe, those key strategic enablers are sort of the same. It's a strong executive sponsorship, first of all. And I'll touch upon them, a little bit after. So it's a strong executive leadership, it's a product thinking, it's repeatable, reusable data foundations, and it's production-grade, robust MLOps platforms. So those to me would be probably, that minimum bundle for the success. And then the rest, the talent, the people, the change management, compliance, measurements, they would line up behind those. Those are the things that would really help to move from pilots to scalable AI use cases within an organization, right? And if I go back to every one of them, I would say that when it comes to product thinking, it really helps for to the organization, to move from POC to a production-grade deployment, start treating AI as a product. And that implies that, you have the product owners, right? You have the SLAs, you have the roadmaps, and you have the funding, you have the financing, right? And for the financing, you need the strong executive leadership, right? And then going back to repeatable and reusable data foundation, we are repeating it to ourselves every now and again that, garbage in, garbage out, right? And 80% of the AI projects are actually spent on building those data foundation, cleaning the data, the ingestion pipelines, and so on and so forth. But yet again, we repeat the same mistakes, right? And the data is still, after many years, moving from statistical models to machine learning to deep learning and Gen AI today, the data still remains boss, as an enabler and actually a barrier to entry into the AI game. So those things to me would be really important to scale AI at organizational level and fully harness the power and the benefits from it.
Thank you so much for saying that, the same very factor can on one hand enable, but on the other hand block, and specifically for this part of the world where the data and keeping it and tracking and clean way is still a challenge itself, and then developing model on it. Just to develop on this, in your opinion, where are we standing right now if we are accessing the AI adaptation? Is it still efficiency driven, or we are moving to the cost, understanding how it's going to affect the cost benefit analysis of the company? So is there any movement there, or we are far away from that yet?
Great question. I love it. So someone coined before the term of boring AI. There is this shiny AI everyone talks about, but the most of the benefits are coming actually from boring AI. So those day-to-day things, little things, I don't know, using AI in a smart way, right? For document processing, for scrapping, for improving, operational tasks. So the true value from AI comes when it fits organically, naturally into existing business on operational workflows, when it integrates with the system. So things like, using AI maybe to drive the data integration, by the way, right? Or using AI as a productivity tool, internal AI assistants, things like that, right? And I still see that the most of the benefits from AI coming from improving efficiency, right? Improving efficiency, so doing more with less, cutting in terms of the hours, or, reinvesting smart. So from that perspective, the way the company should look at their AI portfolio, I believe, right? It's a two-speed portfolio, right? So you have a short to mid-term horizon and you have a longer-term horizon. So for your short to mid-term horizon part of the portfolio, you want to probably focus on those things that would, automate things or cost outs, like invoice processing and stuff like that. And then mid-term, you would move to those growth enablers. So maybe something in customer care, building recommendation engines. And then you would get those efficiency savings, investment savings, and reinvest them back in your longer-term portfolio, those creating new AI platforms like Edge AI or new AI ecosystem, like, for example, building enterprise AI platforms. So that's how I would.
Lovely. Thank you so much for making this division between short-term and long-term and showing the results on the short-term and using that to feed more long-term, project. That's very interesting. And with that, Kirill, if we may, I would like to get your opinion about a more macroeconomic shift that are happening on the competitiveness level, how integration of AI is affecting the way how companies and industry competing between each other. And based on that, based on your observation, what do you think the industries are going to be, what are the industries that are going to be disrupted the most, maybe with AI integration, or going to be, more challenged?
Okay, the question sounds like even longer than should be my answer. Thanks, everyone, the first for coming here. I know the weather is not so good and the traffic is stuck, so thanks everyone for coming. It's not like full house, but still we are happy to discuss it in front of you. So talking about the competitiveness, as of now, we can see the shift, I think, on global level. Before that, we were thinking, okay, guys, what is the most powerful company? Let's see about the size. Let's see about the access to financing, to the capital, whatsoever. We, just before this meeting, we discussed with Sabir over the coffee that there are so many cases right now being done in the world regarding the implementation of AI, but the studies show that only 5 to 10% are P&L successful. Let's call it like this. So we've got some return. So how to measure success of AI and how to compete on this market? So first of all, I think there is not anymore so important to be huge corporation with, nice government relationships or whatsoever. You have to be able to learn very fast from and out of your own mistakes. Because again, this 90% who are left aside, it's the super nice, how to say that, lessons learned for us all to see how not to do and probably to see what you can do instead. So I would say that right now, to be competitive in implementing of AI, the best one is that learns fast, the fastest in learning, and who's got the cheapest power bill. Because it's also important, it's not about sustainability, it's about actual cost of working of AI models. They consume lots of electricity. So this is it. About disruption, probably all of you read some articles about who is most disrupted, what professions will fade. I would say that we can see the influence right now and we can see feasible effects, including those 10% of successful AI projects. It's all about first energy sector, because they've got all this predictive maintenance, they've got this analytics of the energy demand whatsoever. We've got some back office functions as of finance, for example. They show amazing results in FP&A analytics, in managing the cash, in predicting and forecasting of financial flows. So there are many. And of course, we can see more and more examples such as pharmacy, medical sphere, where they do amazing stuff, guys, amazing. You all read about this, how it was not even physically possible to do something like getting different companies working together, because you need billions and billions calculations just to get one idea. Right now it's possible, so it's amazing. Overall, as I said, guys, we need to learn fast. We need to learn faster than we create chaos with this, and we need a cheaper power bill. This is it. Thank you.
And I would like to repeat the question that we have slightly discussed with Sabir and Marina earlier. Where do you see the major challenge? Is it leadership mindset? Is it data infrastructure? Is it human capital in terms of adopting AI in large corporates and organizations?
Obviously, all of this. Guys, as of now, we can feel a huge national museum, I think, with the pilots on AI we already developed. Now, I think it's time for all of the responsible guys to productize what works. So AI implementation should not be some fancy project, as already was said. It should be something that has a link to the P&L, so what the ROI will be on that. It should be supported by whom will do this, who is responsible, as Sabir said, where are the product managers, where is the owner of this module whatsoever. Because if everybody is responsible for AI, it means nobody is responsible for the result, right? So it's the people part. Leadership should be guiding all of the people regarding proper KPIs on implementation of AI, proper set of guidances on integrated approach, not just module by module, let's see how it works in this function, but thinking, everybody does the AI strategies right now, you've seen it. But it's not even about the strategy, vision, mission, etc. It's about the clear roadmap of how we integrate infrastructure, how we integrate data sets, how we clean the data, how we govern it, because without this, it will never fly. So what we should do as of now, management should be setting proper targets. People involved in AI should be totally making the ownership over that and deliver. And all of other people should be engaged, because the studies again showed that you implement some module and you see that after half a year, people still go to ChatGPT because it's more convenient, because it's more useful to them. So people implementing AI should also somehow count what people think about this. Shall they actually use it, or somewhere behind the scenes they will be still using other tools which are more, convenient? So this is it.
Again, we are turning back to the human factor. And with that, I would like to address the question to Amy, that in your opinion, how AI is going to affect the way how the teams are working together, collaborating, creating value? How does this collaboration looks like in the way how you say it?
I'm going to start where you left off, on the human factors and understanding the workflows of your employees. So you've seen this happen before with software, and it's interesting that we look at AI a little bit differently than deploying like an ERP or a new business software, but it is the same. You still have to go through the same process of understanding the workflows within each of the department that you are deploying these new tools. And, you can have the best tool in the world if nobody's using it. Obviously, it's going to fall flat. And I do want to go back also to, we're all talking about the data and the value of the data, but I really can't stress the importance, because none of this works without good, strong data and the governance around that data. And, to Ryan's point about some of the investment in, these AI factories, data centers, there should be a tremendous amount of investment in actually making these lighter weight models that use less compute, that work on the edge, because then you're delivering more dynamic data and it's more secure. One of the things that is concerning to me around, us collaborating with AI agents is that as we start to use agents that may be outside of our own organization, we need to understand the provenance of those agents, what their governance standards are. And if we're not building those policies, and Marina, I'm hoping you're nodding behind me, if we're not building those policies internally and at a government level, we're going to have a world of pain. And I'm generally very positive about all technology, but every single thing that we're talking about up here today, all of these initiatives have to be happening in parallel, including, for collaboration, there's, we talk about human in the loop, but there's also machine in the loop. And the only fundamental difference is the level of automation. And what are those, where do we need a human in the loop in these highly automated, especially, agent to agent optimization structures? And then where are we using AI and how are we using AI as more of a co-pilot? And those structures and that governance is going to be very fluid. And so leadership has to be fluid as well to be able to consistently be looking at their policies and updating them.
Yeah, so just want to add a quick note on top of Amy, your point. I think, in my part of the world, I do both early stage investment through my venture capital fund and also growth stage, late stage investment through my private equity, right? Now, on the early stage side of the things, it's all about people, right? It's all about the talent, about the startup founders. Because, what's happening is that the industry could shift every day, right? 3 months, 6 months down the road, there's no guarantee that your original idea still works. You still have, the same situation as 6 months ago, right? So the external environment keep on changing. Maybe tomorrow OpenAI has released some new features and killed another 1,000 startups out there, right? So, but people stays, right? The true founders, the true entrepreneurs who are resilient, who are talented, and who are flexible to make the right pivot and, can take actions on top of, these environmental changes. Those are the founders we are backing, right? So I think, I talked briefly about this day one unicorn. How does this unicorn, thinking machines by Mira Murati, right? Super intelligence by Ilya Suska, or the Word Labs by Fifi Li, all these day one unicorns, right? From our perspective as investors, at the end of the day, we need to justify this kind of investment and tell our LP, hey, we made this investment and the company is valued. It's a new company. They are just getting started. They have no product to show us, whatever, but the company is valued at $1 billion. And we are very, very lucky to get into deals like that. So we need to be able to justify to our LPs that, hey, this is a rational and this is a reasonable and precious investment. How do we do that? It's a people. So I think, people is all that matters in this equation.
Absolutely. And just to follow up on that, founders, yes, these are the people who are going to make it or break it. But also, based on your experience, do you see a shift in when you are making the investment decisions toward assessing not only the business model profitability, but also social impact? Or is there any pressure from LPs to look into that? Or it's purely the business factor and the founder that you are looking into? So is there anything changing in that equation? Because we are talking a lot about ethical adoption of AI and how it's going to be disrupting the way we live, or we are still in the wild way of, looking into the outcome.
Wow, Tughra, you always ask very deep questions. I like that. So the short answer is the top priority as venture capitalists, as of today, the number one priority is still ROI, right? It's still the return. So, our responsibility as venture capitalists is to, bring the returns to the LPs, right? And that's always number one priority. And that's just how the industry works as of today, right? But I do think, the investor community overall, no matter you are venture capitalist private equity investor, fund of fund, limited partners into some other fund, right? As a capital allocator, we need to think about things, a little bit differently today versus 10, 20 years ago. The entire venture capital industry has a short history of, let's say, 100 years, right? A little bit less than 100 years. So this kind of model of, you raise a fund, you manage this fund for 10 years, maybe 12 years with a little bit extension, hoping you get some, exit through your portfolio companies, and those very, very successful exit are able to triple, quadruple, your returns, right? That's a whole model that has established in the past few decades, right? Now in the AI era, does this model still work out for the best of the industry, and does this still work out the best for the future of humanity? I think there is a big question mark. Some of the differences we see what's happening today versus, even just 3-4 years ago, right? I think one, it takes much longer for companies to exit. These, big companies like, OpenAI, Anthropic, ByteDance, right? They all valued, so OpenAI is valued somewhere between 500 to 600 billion, right? ByteDance, 400 billion. These companies are, if you look at their market cap, they are way larger than a lot of public companies, right? Even on the US stock market. Yet they wanted to stay private forever. So as a lot of investors, we have a lot of pressure on the exit side of things, right? But at the same time, those positions are very valuable. We don't want to exit our precious shares if we are very bullish on these companies, right? So I think it's across the industry to say everyone has a relatively high TVPI, right, which is a paper return. But the DPI is very, very low. So it's very, very hard to achieve exits nowadays. So, and when we talk about sustainability and social responsibility, I think we need to think of not only what's happening in this current decade, but also what's going to happen in the next 2-3 decades, right? What's going to happen for generations. And I think, if you think stuff in those kind of time horizon, a lot of objectives should be shifted, and a lot of the models should be readjusted to take factors in what's the impact of this technology, right? How can we make sure that while we are chasing profitability of this investment, we can maximize our social responsibility, and we can deploy capital efficiently so that the technology can be deployed in very mature and very responsible ways, right? So I do think, as an industry, it's more beneficial for everyone, no matter venture capitalists, private equity investors, growth stage, right, and the public market, and also fund of fund, right, for everyone in the entire ecosystem to rethink about the current model, about the current system, and maybe try some a little bit innovation here, right, to say, hey, does it make sense to extend the default cycle for the return? Can we introduce certain mechanisms to have certain guardrails and guideline governance in the process of capital allocation? And also, can we set up new standard in this kind of equation? So I think these are all very, very urgent problems that we all should think about collectively as well.
Very insightful. And again, we're back to the governance, because what is at the risk is the public trust and responsible governance. And from that perspective, I would like to ask Marina that, because you have a unique position in the intersection between the tech companies and the government, policies, what sort of the private-public partnership do you think can help us to establish a more sustainable adoption of AI into the process?
Before I kick off on that, I really would like us to sort of remember why we're here. So we are discussing intricacies of AI implementation, but honestly, I think we take it for granted that AI is already changing lives. For just a quick example, I'm sure you are using Google products a lot, and you may have seen that we have added 110 languages to Google Translate. We tend to take it again for granted, but it's a huge AI effort, which smooths up communication every day. And out of these 110 languages, we added 40 African languages. I'm currently based out of Cape Town at a digital public infrastructure conference. But you can't imagine what actually it means for the local communities to be able to converse with help of AI in their languages with the local municipalities. This is already changing the landscape. And not only the translation itself, but also the voice models, the open data sets are now applicable in a large number of languages. So this is really accelerating public service. This is accelerating user consumption. This is actually making life easier. So in terms of what governments can and should do, well, definitely there is still not enough governmental open data sets digitized and released for consumption of LLMs, of AI models. And speaking of which, a concept of digital public infrastructure, the foundational models of digital public infrastructure, is actually becoming, I think, paramount, at least in emerging markets. This is what we're seeing across sub-Saharan Africa and Latin America, and some of it is becoming important in APAC. The impact of digital public infrastructure concept, which basically means that the government entities upload the digitized data sets and build an exchange platform and exchange these data sets between them. The proven impact is awesome. It can speed up the economic growth by 33%, at least in the financial sector. Or you can't imagine how fast and prompt the judicial services may become if DPI is implied. Obviously speaking of digital ID and this type of services that are usually residing with judicial and interior systems within the government. AI accelerates that and makes changes possible within weeks, not months, let alone years. So this is a dramatic effect on public sector that AI can bring in. Additionally, the governance, the regulatory approach, this concept of revising sovereignty requirements in a sense of what is critically important for the government, what is critical infrastructure that needs to be classified and, for instance, be hosted in the country, and what are the data sets that could be exchanged with private companies in return for the technological advancement. This is something that the governments are pondering on. This is what we are discussing at the Global DPI Summit these days in Cape Town. I think that this is where the imminent future lies for us.
Thank you so much, Marina. Actually, there are a lot of messages from us because we are also working very closely with the government to see how we can create the environment friendly for experiments, because the government's role is to limit the risks, but now it is completely different pace that we should all be working. And the message that you are saying so much makes sense, in terms of how we can actually build that space, which is not so risky, but also which can hold the experimentation from the corporate side. And we have slightly 15 minutes left, and I have the final question I want to address to all of you and get together your final thoughts. That if we could summarize in just the major messages, what is the mindset that be it organizations, be it public agencies or nations need to adopt to be successful in this new AI economy and AI realities? In your opinion, what that should be? And Kirill, do you want to start with your thoughts?
So should it be brief, right?
Yeah, we can. We have 15 minutes of time,
Okay. No, I just was sitting, and that's so fun that we are together here. So Tughra is responsible for innovations in PASHA Holding. We've got Marina, who is in one of the key corporations in the world, who is responsible for AI. Amy and myself were helping implement AI in some companies. You are responsible for actual hands-on experience, and we also have Ryan, the guy with the money. So pretty much we can do some startup right here on this stage. So what I want to say, I will repeat myself. So main idea about doing proper AI implementation is to move fast, to measure, not obligingly success, but you have to fail fast. Measure what you're doing, because there is no other freaking way to move forward. And the last one, you do something, you productize it. If it sticks, you scale it, you kill everything else, all right? So there is no fluffy bun around, guys, let's give it some more time because probably it will fly. No, you should be straightforward with this, because if not, your competitors will do that without you, and they will be far ahead. So this is the, be fast, learn from your mistakes, implement, scale, measure, kill whatever that doesn't work. This is it. Thank you.
Just a small follow-up here, is that how to make that kill decision, because sometimes this is hard. Resources have been invested, human resources, and then financial resources, etc. You can use data to justify any decision, right? And you can justify to keep this project longer. So what are the key criteria that you are using to answer the questions, to kill it or to follow with that project?
I see Ryan, the guy who knows how to kill, when to kill, and who to kill. So actually, there are a set of KPIs. They are very straightforward. You can go to ChatGPT and ask this question easily. First of all, as Ryan says, I will not give you even $1 if you don't show me how it impacts the P&L. Show me the proper outcome, not a promise that it will change the world. What is the ROI? What is the return on investment? And how do you justify it? So this is the first one, because many AI implementations, they are all about PR and marketing inside of the firm. Actually, we discussed it with Sardor also, that many even C-level representatives, they want to implement something just to make this checkbox about being on the cutting edge of technology and report about that to shareholders. So this is like, I share this opinion. The second one, of course, you need to measure if it sticks, as I say, because the pilot itself can be looking quite nice, but if you see that there is a struggle with the people, with their skills, with their perception of this AI tool, whatever, you should be aware. Because if it's not scalable, you should kill it. Because it's just a fancy pilot. As I said, you just put it on the shelf in that National Museum of AI pilots. So, and pretty much it, I think. Does it stick, and does it bring you money?
Thank you so much. Amy?
I'll go back to my parallel paths of innovation, because you know, and I think we're very much aligned in approach. I just call it parallel paths. You're calling it the short, mid, and then the future. But, you know, yes, we can have a very specific AI focus on optimizing business problems that we're aware of today. The challenge is carving out essentially a facility within your business, and you're already doing it with your sort of internal startup that you're doing at PASHA, which I think is absolutely brilliant. Amazon's done it, eBay's done it. It's proven to work. And what it is more about, it's not, you know, predicting the future. It is about architecting a future, and it's not always focused on a singular technology. So you start with where you want to go. What are the products and services of the future? Because AI is not just changing how we work. It is going to change how we live. And the way that we live is going to be very, very different 20, 30, 40 years from now. And that consumer right? We're all, at the end of the day, consumers as well. That consumer is going to have very different needs as AI scales and starts to really permeate every aspect of our lives. So when I talk about, having this sort of future visioning piece, it is about architecting a future that we actually want to live in, because more and more we're leaving things to AI. You see, especially young people, sort of take everything that AI, their ChatGPT says, and they're not really thinking logically, is this actually a correct piece of information? So we need to maintain, again, the North Star and out into the supernova, but it should also be from a very human perspective. Where do we want this technology to take us? Because today we are in control of it. Tomorrow, AI could realize very quickly that we are in fact the problem. In our best case scenarios, we become their adorable pets. So we need to think about that.
Thank you again for the great questions. It's a great, panelists, I guess, we have here. And it just happened that we got some time with Kirill to catch up before the panel discussion, and we discussed pretty much everything about AI, right? So I would probably be, whatever I say, it's going to be pretty much in tune what Kirill just said, because I'm a hands-on guy. I am the guy who make that happen, it's for organizations, my advice would probably, in a single phrase, experiment fast, fail fast, and design to reuse. If we zoom out a little bit, and if we go at the nation and the government level, I would say the government main task would be, how do I streamline that experience for the organizations? We're thinking about the regulation. It's a fact that regulation is lagging behind, the AI advancements. And the way the regulators, in my opinion, should look at it, they should see the privacy and security, and innovation, not as a competing objectives, but as a complementing ones. It's very hard to strike that right balance, but that's how the government can really facilitate experimentation in the organization, create, for example, regulatory sandboxes, and then when we talk about the cloud, right, the infrastructure is foundation. But let's say if I am a startup in healthcare or life sciences, I don't necessarily want to focus on a low-level infrastructure. If there is a platform as a service on an API I can use, and abstract myself from the complexity of managing that infrastructure, and then focus on my, the business value added, on the core of it, right? So that would be probably, really important. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, I'd like to share some personal thoughts regarding this topic. I think, this is my first time ever that I traveled to Azerbaijan and to Baku. And I think, before I come over here, a week ago, I'm telling a lot of my friends, hey, I'm going to Baku, and they'd be like, oh, that's amazing. And then secretly they look up where Baku is, right? So I think, but after I get here for yesterday and today, these 2 days of immersive conversations, meeting with a lot of founders, entrepreneurs, policymakers, enterprises, I do feel like, hey, we have a really, really, really impressive ecosystem here. And this ecosystem is not so known to the rest of the world, right? I think, if I can just in the conversation with one final thought, I think it's about ecosystem building and also about globalization and building bridges, right? So clearly, we need to have more and more conversations between the local area and Silicon Valley and the rest of the world, right? We want, because at the end of the day, we all live in our own bubbles, right? And if we are not reaching out to have those conversations, then we can get stuck in our bubble, right? If I'm not coming in here, I wouldn't understand, oh, there are so many things happening here. And it's a beautiful country, beautiful city, amazing talent, and very cost efficient, as you mentioned yesterday. And it's such a multicultural space where there are, a lot of people from different cultures, different backgrounds, and the communication and the exchanges And this kind of, collective wisdom is what's making this particular region very, very unique. And I think, when we bring the Azerbaijan and also Eurasia startups to the global stage, right, there is a narrative, there is a perspective where we can strategically position all these companies and all these opportunities as well. So I think it's great that PASHA Holding and you guys are doing such a good job, curating the local ecosystem. And I do want to give a shout out to Anatoly and the Strategy East team to build this platform so that people like me, have the bridge to come over here and learn more about the local ecosystem. And I think the last thing we want to do in this age is to stay in our own bubble. So we should do more to build more bridges in general.
Thank you so much, Ryan. Thank you. Marina, if we can get final thoughts from you.
Key thing is to actually encourage AI use, especially with those who are more rigid and most rigid towards innovations traditionally, like the governments. We have lots of experiments. We witness lots of experiments from across the world. Say in Malaysia, the local ministry, in partnership with us, launched an AI at Work tool, which provided generative AI tools for almost 500,000 of public officials. This needs to be encouraged. This needs to be even mandated. The UAE are mandating AI trainings for public officials. We are, for instance, obliged to refresh the AI course even, now and then, even though it's, you can be working in any part of the organization, but you have to accustom yourself with what's out there, with the new features that are being launched. This is absolutely mandatory. Also to catch up with the next generation, which is sort of very intuitively already adopting AI technologies. Another thing I think which is critical is definitely modernizing public administration, not only through upskilling but through the regulation that we touched upon, and encouraging governance, contributing with the government, contributing to the work of the government on delivering more effective services for the citizens. There must be a demand for that. There must be, an interaction with the citizens and a feedback collection in order to assess the progress in this field. And definitely just cultivating the institutional agility to adapt the AI, which constantly evolves. These are the things that I think need to be adopted.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Marina. Thank you, esteemed panel members. It was a very interesting discussion. Thank you for your time and thoughts, and to the audience for your attention. Thank you.